Hey everyone, welcome to the October Composer of the Month. It's time for a female medieval composer, and this woman is amazing. So we have learned that a long time ago, most of the composers were men, right? Yeah, most of the composers were men. Most of the famous composers that everybody thinks about, they're men. Like Beethoven and Bach and Brahms and Palestrina and Monteverde and Verdi and all of those composers, most of them tend to be men. But this woman is the most prolific. That means that she wrote the most songs that have survived to today out of any medieval composer, and she's a woman. Her name is Hildegard von Bingen. That's kind of fun to say. Why don't you say it with me? Say Hildegard von Bingen. Yes, okay. So it's kind of fun to say Hildegard von Bingen. And she was a saint, a composer, and a poet, but that's not all she was. She was basically like a medieval doctor. People came to her and she helped them be healed from things, and she used natural medicine, herbs and things from creation to help heal patients who were sick with things or who had injuries. She knew a lot about the human body. In fact, she even wrote some books about anatomy and physiology. She wrote about botany, that's the growing of plants, the science of growing of plants. She wrote books about her visions. From the time that she was very small, like 3 years old, she had visions about God and about the soul of humans, and she would have these visions that she felt were from God, and she, at one point in her life, eventually, God told her to write them down, and she started writing them down. And the Pope at the time even read her writings and encouraged her and said, write some more, because this is really good. And so Hildegard von Bingen gained a lot of credibility when the Pope took notice of her and her writings. But she wasn't just amazing in the fact that she knew how to do a lot of different things. She was amazing in the music world as well. She grew up, she kind of grew up in the church because she was born into a wealthy family, but was given to the church partly because of her visions even as a young child. But she was given to the church when she was 8 years old and put into the care of a woman named Jutta. And Jutta was a lot older, and she went to live with Jutta, and Jutta and Hildegard von Bingen, they entered into the church and lived with a group of women, nuns, right, who were attached to a hilltop monastery in Germany that had abbots and monks who were men who had chosen a life of solitude and service to God. So here is Hildegard von Bingen at 8 years old. She's given into the church to become a nun and to live with this group of women and to serve God in that capacity. So she becomes a nun and spends most of her life as a nun in a hilltop monastery in Germany. She wrote a ton of music. Even today, over 70 of her musical compositions still are surviving, and we have the actual writings from her. We have the music notation on the medieval kind of staff. I'll give you some examples so you can see what that looks like. And so it's really amazing that musicians can pick up her music because she notated it and wrote it down and wrote down the words and sing it today. We can pick it up and sing it. So she wrote a lot of church music that we can still pick up and sing today. It is very different from what we sing in church today, but it's beautiful, and it was very special in medieval times because a lot of the medieval church music was very constant. I'll play a little example of that right here, and you can kind of hear that this is very, very kind of stays the same a lot, right? And then we hear Hildegard von Bingen's music, and it's this music that just kind of spirals and moves heavenward, and that's the effect that she wanted it to have. In addition to just writing music, she wrote the oldest surviving morality play, and it's called Ordo Virtuum. So Ordo Virtuum. And Ordo Virtuum was a morality play. Now that's different from a normal play that we might see, and it's different from a musical that we would watch on TV or go to a theater to see. It's different from a rock opera. It's different from any other kind of theater that we think of, but it would have been performed like a modern day musical. There would have been talking and singing. And the idea behind a morality play is that it did not express, it didn't tell the story like a specific story from the Bible, but it made like a person the character, and that person goes through a journey, and they may meet people from the Bible, or they may meet virtues like justice and love and mercy, compassion, right? They may meet good qualities, virtues, that are personified, that are played by people. Like there'd be a person maybe playing the quality of mercy, right? And then they might meet the devil, or some bad qualities that were trying to turn them away from doing what was right and away from the virtues and make them go toward what was wrong. Well, her morality play, Ordo Virtuum, it took a soul, and she called that soul anima, and that soul came into, like, met the patriarchs of the Bible and the prophets, and then met a group of women who were virtues. And one of them was mercy, yes. So met a group of women who were virtues and really tried to do the right thing, and the soul was happy when it was doing the right thing. And then the devil comes in and causes the soul to stray from the path of doing good things, and the virtues go in and argue with the devil and bring the soul back to wanting to do the right thing, and they capture the devil and tie him up and conquer him, and the soul lives to be a happy soul to go to heaven. So that's kind of the idea of a morality play. It's about morality and virtue, and hers particularly talked about the idea of a sinner going off and doing the wrong thing, but then God forgiving that sinner and bringing them back into relationship with Him and going to heaven. So that whole idea that we talk about of Jesus dying on the cross for our sins and being brought back into right relationship with God is kind of expressed in this morality play from the medieval times. And this morality play actually survives with the music pieces intact. And in addition to this long morality play, which can still be performed today, there are 69 other songs that we have the words and the music notation to by Hildegard von Bingen. So she is a very famous and prolific and worthy of our respect composer from the medieval period, and she happens to be a woman as well. Now, you might find as you research her a little bit some very interesting things about Hildegard von Bingen, and I don't want to tell you everything about her, but I will say this. She was very much ahead of her time. She pushed for women to be more active in the church, for them to have more power and responsibility. She certainly learned things that a lot of women were not taught in the Middle Ages. She could read and write, she could study, she knew sciences. In fact, she is described as a polymath, and a polymath is someone who has extensive knowledge in a lot of different subjects and combines that knowledge to solve problems. So she was an extraordinary composer. Hildegard von Bingen. So this month, you have the entire month to complete your Composer of the Month assignment. And it's a Google Slides assignment, and there are instructions on it, but you just, after watching this video, you'll have all of the answers that you need to fill in those Google Slides. If you need to go back and watch a certain part of the video again, go ahead and do it. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to just remember them from watching the video once. Fill in that Google Slide assignment, turn it into Mrs. Davis, and we are all good. I'm also sending it in an email to your parents if you need to print it out and write down the answers or email the answers back to me. I'll take it any way you want to give it to me. But I also have a video that I'll link below on how to use Google Classroom. If you're having a little bit of trouble getting these assignments back to me, that will give you some instruction on how to use Google Classroom. So again, if you have any questions, contact me. I don't mind helping you at all. Have a great musical day.